So understand these thoughts are powerful. They can lift you up or tear you down. They can open doors or close them. But you have the power to choose which ones you give life to. And that choice will determine everything. Negative thoughts are like uninvited guests that show up in your mind, often at the worst times. They come in quietly, sometimes almost unnoticed, and before you realize it, they've made themselves at home. They're the thoughts that creep in when you're trying to push forward, telling you you can't do it or you're not good enough. These thoughts don't ask for permission to enter your mind. They barge in and take over if you let them. But here's the thing, you don't have to let them stay. You have the power to show them the door. Imagine your mind as a house and you're the host. When you invite people into your home, you make sure they bring value to your space. You don't let just anyone come in and cause chaos, right? It's the same with your thoughts. You can't stop negative thoughts from showing up at the door, but you can decide whether or not you let them in, whether they stay and mess up the place, or whether they're politely or not so politely shown the way out. We often treat negative thoughts as if they have some special authority over us, as if they must be accepted simply because they've arrived. But that's a lie. A thought is just a visitor. It's only a visitor until you decide to let it stay. You see, your mind is a powerful space and it's your responsibility to guard it. If you don't, those uninvited guests, those negative thoughts will take over and start to influence everything you do. Here's something important to understand. You are not your thoughts. Just because a negative thought enters your mind doesn't mean it's true. And it certainly doesn't define who you are. Thoughts are temporary, fleeting. They come and go, but you remain. You are in control of whether those thoughts take root and start dictating your actions and beliefs. Too often, we get stuck because we confuse a passing thought with our reality. A negative thought says, you'll never be able to do this, and suddenly we believe it. We let that thought dictate our actions and we hold ourselves back. But that's a mistake. Just because a thought arrives doesn't mean it gets to stay. The problem is, when negative thoughts come in, they can be persuasive. They know exactly how to speak to your insecurities, how to press the right buttons to make you doubt yourself. They're good at making you feel small, powerless, and stuck. And once they're in, they tend to invite more of their kind. One negative thought attracts another. And before you know it, your mind is full of doubt, fear, and self-criticism. But you have a choice. You can interrupt that cycle. You can stop the negative thoughts in their tracks. And you can refuse to let them take over. Think about it this way. Every thought that comes into your mind is either helping you move forward or holding you back. It's either building you up or tearing you down. You wouldn't let someone walk into your home and start criticizing you, belittling you, and tearing down everything you've worked for, right? So why would you let a negative thought do that in your mind? One of the most powerful things you can do is learn to recognize when a thought is not serving you. When a thought enters your mind that says, you're not smart enough for this, you've got to stop and question it. Ask yourself, is this thought really true? Or is it just fear trying to hold me back? Most of the time, you'll find that negative thoughts are based on fear, not fact. They're rooted in past experiences, insecurities, or the fear of failure. But those things don't define your future, and they certainly don't have to define who you are right now. Once you recognize that a thought isn't serving you, you can take action. And the action is simple. You don't entertain it. You acknowledge that it's there, but you don't let it move in. Instead, you replace it with something that builds you up. If the thought says, you can't do this, replace it with, I am capable of learning and growing. If it says, you're not good enough, replace it with, I am more than enough. This isn't just about positive thinking for the sake of it. It's about taking back control of your mind. It's about choosing what thoughts you allow to stay and influence your life. The more you practice this, the better you get at it. It's like any other skill. At first, it might feel challenging because negative thoughts can be stubborn. They'll try to fight back, insisting that they belong in your mind, but you've got to be firm. You've got to decide that only thoughts that support your growth, your progress, and your well-being are allowed to stay. Over time, you'll notice that the negative thoughts start to show up less often because they know they're not welcome. And when they do show up, you'll be quicker to show them the door. Are the gatekeeper of your mind. Negative thoughts will always try to sneak in, but they don't have the right to stay unless you give them that power. It's up to you to decide who gets to live in your mental space. Treat your mind like the valuable property it is, and don't let uninvited guests, those negative, unproductive thoughts, stay longer than necessary. Show them the door and make room for thoughts that empower you, strengthen you, and move you closer to the life you want to live. Negative thinking has a way of taking root in our minds and distorting how we see ourselves, our abilities, and the world around us. It convinces us that our failures define us, that we're incapable of achieving the success we desire, and that things will never get better. But here's the truth: you are not stuck with those negative thoughts. You can change them. You can actively replace them with thoughts that are empowering, productive, and aligned with the person you truly are and want to become. You have more control over your mind than you think. The human brain is designed to adapt, to learn, and to evolve. The thoughts you focus on the most become your reality, because your brain literally builds pathways based on what you feed it. If you consistently feed your mind negativity, self-doubt, fear, and criticism, those thoughts will become stronger and more ingrained. They'll become your default, the automatic response to any challenge or opportunity. But if you start replacing those negative thoughts with positive, constructive ones, your brain will rewire itself to support a new mindset. It's not magic, it's science. The first step in this process is awareness. You've got to catch yourself when a negative thought enters your mind. Too often, we're not even aware of the stream of negativity running in the background of our thoughts. It's like white noise always there, but we don't pay attention to it. So the first thing you need to do is become aware of your thinking. When you find yourself thinking, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, stop for a moment and recognize what's happening. That awareness is key, because you can't change what you don't notice. Once you become aware of the negative thought, the next step is to challenge it. Don't just accept it as the truth. Ask yourself, is this thought based on fact, or is it just my fear talking? More often than not, negative thoughts are rooted in fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of the unknown. But fear isn't the truth. It's just a feeling, and feelings aren't facts. When you challenge your negative thoughts, you begin to take their power away. They no longer seem so overwhelming or all-consuming. After you challenge the negative thought, it's time to replace it with something positive, something that builds you up rather than tears you down. This isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about reframing your thinking so that it serves you rather than hinders you. For example, if the negative thought is, I can't do this, replace it with, I may not know how to do this yet, but I'm capable of learning. If the thought is, I'm not good enough, replace it with, I have unique strengths and abilities that make me valuable. This isn't just about positivity for the sake of it. It's about training your mind to look for solutions, growth, and possibility, rather than getting stuck in limitation. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never experience negative thoughts again. Negative thinking is a habit. And like any habit, it takes time to break. You're going to have moments where those old patterns creep back in. But the more you practice replacing negative thoughts with positive ones, the more natural it becomes. You're literally rewiring your brain to think differently. You're training your mind to focus on what's possible rather than what's holding you back. There's another important aspect to this process, and that's self-compassion. Often we're our own worst critics. We hold ourselves to impossibly high standards, and when we fall short, we beat ourselves up. That kind of thinking only fuels more negativity. Instead of being your harshest critic, learn to be your own biggest supporter. When negative thoughts about your worth or abilities arise, respond with compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend. If you make a mistake, instead of thinking, I'm a failure, say to yourself, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how I learn from this. Self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about recognizing that you're human and that you're allowed to grow and improve without the weight of harsh self-judgment. Another powerful tool in replacing negative thinking is visualization. When you catch yourself in a spiral of negative thoughts, try closing your eyes and visualizing the outcome you want. See yourself succeeding, overcoming challenges, and becoming the person you know you can be. Your brain responds to images in powerful ways. When you visualize success, your brain starts to believe it's possible, and it will work to make that vision a reality. It's like planting a seed in your subconscious that begins to grow and shape your actions and decisions. One of the most important things to remember in this journey is that you are in control. You may not be able to control every thought that enters your mind, but you can control which thoughts you allow to stay. You can decide whether a thought is going to shape your day, your decisions, or your life You have the power to choose what you focus on. And that choice determines your reality. Negative thoughts will always try to creep in, but they don't have the final say. You do. Over time, as you replace more and more negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll notice a shift in how you approach life. Challenges won't seem so daunting. Opportunities won't seem out of reach. You'll begin to see yourself in a new light as someone who is capable, resilient, and worthy of success. And that shift in thinking will translate into real, tangible changes in your life. You are the architect of your mind. You get to decide what thoughts you entertain and which ones you let go. So the next time a negative thought tries to take over, show it the door and replace it with something that empowers you, something that aligns with the person you know you can become. It's a process, but it's a process that leads to real transformation. You are in control, and it all starts with the thoughts you choose to focus on. The journey of replacing negative thoughts with positive, empowering ones is not an overnight transformation. It's a process. And like any process, it requires patience, persistence, and most importantly, consistency. If you're serious about breaking the cycle of negative thinking, you need to understand that consistency is key. It's not something you do once and expect instant results. It's something you have to work at every single day, sometimes every single moment. The good news is, the more consistent you are, the easier it becomes, and the more natural it feels.
Mistakes are inevitable. No one goes through life without stumbling, without falling down, without making a wrong turn at some point. But what separates those who succeed from those who don't isn't the absence of mistakes, it's how they respond to them. Every time you make a mistake, every time something doesn't go as planned, you have a choice. You can either let that mistake define you, or you can let it teach you. The difference between success and failure often comes down to this: will you learn from your mistakes? Let me tell you something, there's a hidden power in every mistake you make. Each mistake contains a lesson, a piece of wisdom that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, but too often we're afraid of mistakes. We think that if we mess up, it means we're not good enough or that we're on the wrong path. But mistakes are not the enemy. They are, in fact, your greatest teacher. The most successful people in the world didn't get to where they are because they avoided mistakes. They got there because they embraced them, learned from them, and used them as stepping stones to get closer to their goals. The key is not to dwell on the mistake itself, but to ask, what can I take away from this? It's not about beating yourself up, feeling guilty, or letting that mistake hold you down. Instead, it's about seeing the mistake for what it is, an opportunity to grow. When you shift your mindset from fearing mistakes to embracing them as part of your journey, you become unstoppable. You stop seeing failure as a dead end and start seeing it as a detour, one that might just lead you to an even better destination. Think about it, every time you fall, you learn something valuable, you learn what doesn't work, you learn about your own limits, your own weaknesses, but you also learn how to get back up. And each time you do, you get stronger. You get wiser. That's the gift of mistakes. They reveal things about you that success can't. Success doesn't teach you resilience, but failure does. Success doesn't show you where your blind spots are, but mistakes do. And once you learn from them, you're better prepared for the next challenge. But learning from your mistakes requires humility. It requires you to admit when something didn't go as planned, to take responsibility for it, and to be willing to adjust. Too many people make the same mistakes over and over because they're unwilling to learn. They repeat the same patterns, expecting different results, without ever taking a moment to ask themselves, what should I do differently? You can't grow if you're not willing to learn, and you can't learn if you're not willing to acknowledge that a mistake was made in the first place. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that failure is final. It's not. Failure is a process, a stepping stone. Every failure brings you closer to success as long as you're willing to extract the lesson from it. The road to greatness is paved with mistakes, but each one brings you a little bit closer to where you want to go if you're paying attention. The faster you learn from your mistakes, the faster you'll grow, and the faster you'll reach your goals. So every day, remind yourself, I will learn from my mistakes. Make that your mantra. Because there's freedom in knowing that mistakes are not the end of the road. They're part of the process, and each one is helping to shape you into the person you're meant to become. Don't run from them. Don't be afraid of them. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. The truth is, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And that feedback is what's going to push you to greater heights. Every mistake is a lesson in disguise. And those who are wise enough to learn from them will always rise above. So go ahead and make mistakes, learn from them, and use them as fuel to propel you toward your success. Perfection is an illusion. It's a trap that too many people fall into, thinking that they need to have everything just right before they take a step forward. They believe that unless the stars align, unless every detail is flawless, they can't move. But here's the truth: waiting for perfection will paralyze you. It will keep you stuck in the same place day after day while life and opportunity pass you by. That's why you have to remind yourself daily, I choose progress over perfection. See, perfection is often a cover for fear. It's the fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of judgment. It's easy to tell yourself, I'll start when everything is perfect, because then you don't have to face the discomfort of taking action. But that kind of thinking will keep you on the sidelines forever. The reality is, nothing will ever be perfect. There will always be something that could be better, something that could be tweaked, something you wish you'd done differently. But if you focus on progress instead of perfection, you give yourself permission to start, to move forward, and to keep going, flaws and all. Think about it. Every small step you take, every bit of progress you make adds up. Over time, those small actions compound into big results. But if you're waiting for perfection, you'll never get started. You'll never build the momentum you need to reach your goals. Progress is about forward movement. It's about doing the best you can with what you have right now, knowing that you'll improve along the way. You don't need to have all the answers to take the first step, you just need to be willing to begin. Progress allows you to embrace the process. It's in the process where growth happens, where learning takes place, where you discover what you're truly capable of. Perfection, on the other hand, is stagnant. It doesn't leave room for growth because it assumes you've reached an end point, a place where there's nothing left to improve. But life doesn't work like that. Life is a constant journey of learning, adjusting, and becoming better than you were yesterday. And that's what progress is about. Choosing progress over perfection means being okay with making mistakes, knowing that each misstep is just part of the learning curve. It means accepting that sometimes things won't go according to plan, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep moving, that you don't let the pursuit of perfection become an excuse for inaction. You have to understand that getting things done imperfectly is far better than doing nothing while you wait for perfection to arrive. When you prioritize progress, you also give yourself grace. You stop beating yourself up for not being perfect, and instead you celebrate the small wins. You recognize the effort you're putting in, the strides you're making, even if they're not flawless. Progress teaches you to be patient with yourself, to acknowledge that growth takes time, and that mastery is a gradual process. Nobody becomes great overnight. It's the result of consistent effort, of showing up day after day, chipping away at your goals little by little. Choosing progress also builds resilience. When you're focused on making small, steady improvements, you're less likely to get discouraged when things don't go perfectly. You understand that setbacks are part of the journey, not a sign that you're failing. You learn to adjust, to pivot, and to keep going, knowing that even imperfect progress is still progress. And over time, that resilience becomes one of your greatest strengths. It keeps you moving forward when others give up. So every day, make the decision to choose progress over perfection. Let go of the need for everything to be flawless and focus on moving forward. Remember, it's not about getting everything right from the start. It's about showing up, doing the work, and trusting that you'll get better along the way. Progress is what leads to success, not perfection. And the moment you embrace that truth, you'll unlock a new level of freedom, power, and potential in your life. Keep moving, keep growing, and watch how far you'll go. You are worthy of success. This is something you have to remind yourself every single day, because the world has a way of making you feel like you're not. Whether it's through comparison, doubt, or rejection, it's easy to start questioning your value, to wonder if you really deserve the success you dream about. But let me tell you this, you are worthy. You are worthy of achieving everything you set your heart on, and you don't need anyone else's approval to claim it. Your worth doesn't come from what other people say or think. It comes from who you are and who you decide to become. So many people get stuck because they don't believe they're worthy of success. They think it's something reserved for other people, people who seem smarter, more talented, or more connected, but that's not true. Success isn't limited to a chosen few. It's not something that only certain people deserve. It's available to you, to me, to anyone who's willing to work for it. But the first step to achieving it is believing that you deserve it. This belief is powerful because it shapes the way you show up in the world. When you believe you are worthy of success, you carry yourself differently. You approach opportunities with confidence, knowing that you belong in the room, that you have just as much right to be there as anyone else. You take chances because you know you deserve a shot at success, just like anyone else. On the other hand, if you don't believe in your worth, you'll hold yourself back. You'll hesitate. You'll shrink in the face of opportunities because deep down you don't feel like you deserve them. And that's the biggest lie fear will try to feed you. You see, success isn't just about skill or talent. It's also about mindset. If you don't believe you're worthy of success, you won't pursue it with the same energy, focus, or persistence as someone who does. You'll let opportunities slip by because you think they belong to someone else. But when you recognize your worth, when you stand tall in the belief that you are deserving of every good thing, you start to see the world differently. You see possibilities instead of barriers. You see doors opening instead of closing. And that belief will propel you forward in ways you can't even imagine. This doesn't mean success will come easily or that you won't face challenges. You will. There will be moments of doubt, moments where things don't go as planned. But even in those moments, you have to remind yourself that none of that changes your worth. Your worth is not tied to your failures or your setbacks. It's not tied to how long it takes you to reach your goals. It's constant, unwavering, and it's something you must hold on to, especially when times get tough. There will always be people who try to make you feel like you're not good enough, like you don't deserve success. But their opinions don't define you. What matters is how you see yourself. And every morning you need to tell yourself, I am worthy of success. Say it out loud, say it with conviction, and let that truth sink into every part of your being. Because when you believe it, you start to act like it. You stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop playing small. You stop letting fear and doubt dictate your choices. Instead, you step into your power, you go after what you want, and you don't stop until you get it. Success is not a matter of luck. It's not something that's handed out randomly. It's something you claim for yourself when you believe you're worthy of it. And you are. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've been through, no matter how many times you've fallen, you are still worthy of success. So stand tall, go after your dreams with everything you've got, and never let anyone, including yourself, make you feel like you don't deserve it. You are worthy. Believe that, live that, and success will follow.